Hello and welcome to part two of Monday's Musings. All right, so in part one, we were talking about my career path, which we will continue to talk about in this one, but even more exciting, let's talk about Red Key USB. And I am not a spokesperson for them. I am a backer, though. I did just recently pledge to buy one of their data wiping kits, and I plan on sending another one if my cousin wants to. But we were just recently talking about a computer donation program for out there in Oregon. Sorry, and yeah, so much open source intelligence. But again, like, really don't think hacktivists are going to try to target us. And if governments try to target us, well, sorry to break it to you, but the idea of a honeypot is anyways, I digress. But um, so. About that though, the Red Key USB, it's a wonderful tool, and to give you a little context, a little history, one of my biggest frustrations with the tech community was how tech was recycled or wasn't recycled. I worked at an aerospace company that just tossed them like trash into a big old bin. And I come from a poor family that we had one family computer that cost us an arm and a leg. And even my best friend's dad, who was a computer salesman, had the one family computer. I mean, it was a really good computer playing Doom at whatever the, 1 gigabyte of RAM. Actually, I think that's what mine had, or ours had. But anyways, yeah. And then, well, statute of limitation. Oh, actually, no. All of this stuff was when I was a minor, so I guess that's fine. Um, Sorry. And I don't want anyone to think less of me. I kind of feel bad about revealing that I was a stoner in high school that played Tony Hawk with my buddies. In fact, we got into serious trouble. We got caught with a cooler full of alcohol, marijuana, mushrooms, uh, painkillers, cigars. Like, it was a stash. But if you think about that, though, all legal today. So that's what's interesting. And we were raised to hate meth. Meth was the enemy. It was the zombie drug. It made you into a tweaker, and we knew tweakers. There was a lot of tweakers in Buena Vista. I mean, and again, a town of 2,000, 3,000 people where everybody knows your business, and there's a big meth problem because it's the drug superhighway, um, which is strange. I almost want to say it's related to the prison. Okay, now, not to narc on anybody. If anything, I'm trying to advocate for common sense drug law reform to eliminate the black markets for drugs. Because that's the other thing people don't understand is like, and you should go to a smoke shop or, some kind of cannabis shop and have them explain it to you because they get trained on this. This is part of their training is to understand tax evasion. Now, with the introduction of legal marijuana, you now have an entire tax bracket of like, okay, this is a different like sin tax. I mean, not syntax like in computer science, the fun, the grammar of coding. No, we're talking about the sin, and actually, is that even a thing? Like, we're supposed to be keeping church and state separate, and then we have a sin tax. Anyways, I know there's a tax on tobacco, alcohol. Wow, that'd be interesting if it was actually the ATF, but I know for consumable products like tobacco and alcohol, things that you ingest, have a tax. So, and same with cannabis. Like there is a heavy tax on it, and it goes to funding schools and public programs and all of that, wasteful spending that people keep griping about. And it's like, oh, let's just legalize weed, and like it takes the money and puts it into the government, and it provides a safe and healthy alternative to alcohol. And I'm sorry, anybody that drinks knows alcohol can lead to problems, will lead to problems if you don't keep it checked. So, and we have AA and we have NA, and honestly, and I've been to both and I've seen both, and it's like, uh, and I hate Alcoholics Anonymous. Like having to admit you're like an alcoholic and like you're somehow flawed and all this. And even if that's not the intention, and that's why I spend so much time on the behavioral and psychological aspect of it, because I know what it's like to be labeled, and I know what it's like to have a very close family member labeled as such. And, did that help them at all? No, that didn't help them one bit. And it's insensitive and it's flat out evil. You want to talk about sinning, the judger, whoever's judging, and that's our law enforcement and our corrections, unfortunately. So, and no, but by no faults of their own, mind you, like you can't get mad at the cogs in the machine. You gotta change the machine. So, and take the same cogs, melt them down, retrain them, Yeah, we're going through all sorts of analogies here because, like, the ways of old, like, old industry used to be brick and mortar stores, like, centered around, like, a very structured and defined business model. And now you've got, like, tech companies providing all of these different tech solutions remotely and instantaneously, like, and it's just ridiculous. Or even, sorry, not even, like, we got the hardware components too, like this Red Key USB. And sorry, like to really highlight that, where you can reuse computers. That's why that's so important, is because you can save a computer from a junkyard, which is dangerous. There's toxic materials in tech, and they need to be properly. And that's the thing. It's like I can't fault that aerospace company for what they did. They had privatized, they had privy information, protected information. Like they needed to make sure that it was wiped to Department of Defense specs. Well, guess what? The Red Key USB can do that. It can do it. Well, I mean, and I want to run it by some friends of mine that can do better digital forensics than I can. I can do it sloppily because, again, I'm a novice computer scientist and a novice cybersecurity professional. However, I do know people. See, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. I know people that do that for a living. So I'm actually curious. I wonder if I could broker a deal where with Red Key USB, if like I could have this guy demo the product as a actual professional, like 20-year professional in the field, like, and just be like, yep, I can't find anything. Although that's dangerous too, because that so let's see. Here's the double-edged sword. While yes, Red Key USB is wonderful for companies wanting to donate computers to people that could use it, and I'm not even saying just straight poor people. If we can get enough, and I hate classifying people that are having a hard time, but really all of us could use the help. I mean, when I think about going to school, actually, wait, just had to make sure I was recording, like, because I've done that. I've talked to myself, but no, because like anybody going to school, like a computer's expensive, and especially if you want to. And now, so I've actually more recently been dealing with a different demographic, the richer, the wealthier kind of class system, and even the people that aren't wealthier, the ones that want to look like they're wealthier. And I heard that, over at a certain college, people would get a water cup in Starbucks just for appearances. And that's sad, but totally believable, understandable. I mean, I get it. Just like when I worked up at the ski resort, there was definitely a status. Like, in fact, my girlfriend at the time, oh, beautiful Jewish woman. Anyway, sorry, was also an elitist as far as skiing went. She grew up doing the ski race team. Um, Oh, and this also comes back to the war on drugs. And her dad used to work for Atmos Energy up there, and he would smell out meth labs in Buena Vista. And he would tell our other buddy, Jimmy, chief of police, up until recently retired, that there's a meth lab. And so, and that's fine. The entire community got behind that. And like, and even that, I wouldn't have said that if he wasn't retired far away, and like he's not even in Buena Vista anymore. So that doesn't dox him or put him at risk. But at the same time, good on him. Like if you have a meth lab, I'm sorry, no, no, you shouldn't, and no, you don't. So, and I'm no rat, no narc, except for when it comes to something like that. Like, because that's endangering. And I had some people smoking meth in a house that I rented, and I tried to tell the landlord that I was like, hey, I think they're smoking meth, and I couldn't confirm. I was actually on the verge of like getting local law enforcement to come test out like the air, like maybe do a drug swab and just to make sure because luckily we didn't live there long. It was actually even worse at my co-parents' house. There was a guy smoking cigarettes in the unit below them, and the smoke was wafting up to the upstairs unit. So I went and talked to him. I was like, "Hey, could you please go outside to do that? Like, I don't think you're technically allowed to. I mean, it's against the law. First of all, the Clean Air Act. It forbids you from smoking cigarettes within 20 feet of an entryway to a business, and I believe in a shared like communal style living. Like I think it's illegal. Just like it's illegal, it's against fire code to have grills on the patios. So, anyways, I digress. My point being is cigarettes and meth are probably like the worst things. Now, marijuana and cannabis, I would be alarmed with having that smoke around my baby, but definitely more concerned about those first two. And the thing with marijuana smoke is you really can't smell it like farther than a couple of rooms. Like and proof. I'll tell you exactly how I know. In the academic village over at CSU, we used to smoke in the bathrooms, and we would just put a towel under the door, leave the fan on, spray some Febreze, and it was all hunky dory. And we even had people that came in. We had a janitor that came in and like he, sometimes he would let us know, be like, "Hey, you're slipping. Like, you need to clean this up, or you need to." It was good. It was like someone like as a buffer before, like, oh, let's get campus police involved, and because mind you, marijuana was illegal still, and definitely against the rules. And okay, so I could get in trouble for statute of limitations, but then at the same time, wait a minute, is it like where does that go? So, anyways, it's just funny because like people think that and mind you, these are the engineers. Let's back that up a bit. So these are the engineers, and I was an electrical engineering student, and a lot of my friends are now designing like, many fantastic things and like being very successful engineers in the workplace. And that's where they were at. They were also like riding their bikes through the halls, their longboards. Like I remember one kid, he slammed on his brakes in the hall and he made a burn mark. And yeah, and I think he had to pay a lot of money for that. And then like just I call it dorm life. I've been corrected that they're residence halls, but no, at CSU it's dorm life. I'm sorry. Like it just is. And that's the thing too. Like they were great students. Like they did those things. Yeah, okay. And that would be conflict resolutions. They would have been talked to and they would have been kicked out of the dorms probably, or at least like given a strike or something. I believe it was that system. But I would never know because that never really happened to me or my friends because we were quiet about it. We were secretive and careful. Like, and now it doesn't even matter. Now um, you can smoke out in, well, you can't do it in public, and you can't even smoke cigarettes in Old Town, which is awesome, by the way. Like, that used to bug me so much. I mean, and as a smoker, yeah, I get it, but even when I was a smoker and I'd smell other people's cigarettes, it kind of bothered me. And I had my nose deadened to the stench of it. And again, I grew up, my dad was a smoker, and like, and he would drive around smoking with us in the car. So we were getting secondhand smoke, which is another great benefit of like this generation versus my generation is we're at least saving our kids from the lung problems of that. Because you can definitely get lung cancer from secondhand smoke. And even right now, I'm like being more self-conscious about a froggy throat. But I haven't smoked for years. So I've been tobacco free almost as long as I've been alcohol free. So, and it's wonderful. Like that's the best, healthiest decision I've ever made for myself. The two healthiest decisions. And mind you, I used to smoke cigarettes when I'd run the Boulder Boulder. I used to run the Boulder Boulder every year. That's a 10K. It's one of the most famous races in the world, let alone, I mean, at least in the country. I don't know if other countries really know, oh, the Boulder Boulder or something like. Sorry, that was kind of racist there. I didn't mean for it to go that way. But no, seriously, like, just like FIFA, we don't pay attention. Oh, not all of us. I know my supervisor is actually a huge soccer fan, so I gotta speak carefully. And it's great too. Like I'll watch it, but I don't seek it out. I don't seek out any. I almost want to say I don't seek out any TV at all now. I grew up having to time my schedule around when a show aired. That now it's like, oh, I just want to watch some YouTube, or actually that's really the majority of all I watch is YouTube, Netflix, and Disney Plus. And yeah. Oh, and Netflix is cracking down. I'm on my mom's account, and like we did live together, like even as recently as like 2 years ago, because like she buys and sells houses like crazy, and she's constantly moving around trying to be happy. She's retired, and and I'm very supportive of what she wants to do. I'll help her move. I'll live with her, and really it was for convenience for both of us because kids are expensive, and I was yes, kids are expensive, but also I was trying to save up for a ridiculous amount of child support that I never had in the first place, 10 grand. Um, but don't worry, we worked as a team, we negotiated, we resolved that issue. So now, yeah, sorry, and I won't bring our business on public. Like, yeah, we'll leave it at that. We're in a much better place now. But I had to live with my ma again as like that 30-some-year-old person. Like, and I did my boot camp living with my mom. And no, that's not why I performed so high in the boot camp. I was also, when I was living on my own, I was pretty much fast tracking to supervisor at that wind turbine company, or the wind turbine blade company. It didn't even produce all the parts, it was just the blades. And I produced the inner parts of the blades. So, anyways, I say that because, like, even with all of my checkered past and all of my, ins and outs, I still have had very successful career type jobs. I've been paid very well, trusted very well. Or let's talk about that. Let's finish the because I didn't even start that Jamboard, but I will. My job history. So construction, and then when I got into college, I worked for the apartment complex. I was a resident manager. I was in charge of security. I was in charge of lockout services. I was in charge of what else? Parking services. I had to keep track of people's license plates when like non-residents were taking up our limited parking. Oh, whoops! I also need to. Oh, whatever. So I was a person of trust at the apartment complex. I had a master key to every unit. Um, and I lived there for 2 years. I lived there with that high school sweetheart, and then my other roommate who was, well, not so good. And we'll talk about that probably in more, maybe in like a paid stream or something. I don't know. Like on the Twitter space. Maybe I'll do a Twitter space that like we'll talk about it and it won't be recorded. It'll probably be recorded. Someone will record it. But even PlayStation records your gameplay. I found out like you can save up to the last hour. It continue. It's like in Rick and Morty with like the simulation where they're running and it's like a treadmill and they're creating the simulation, then destroying it at the back end as they move. Well, yeah, they're constantly saving your gameplay. And I don't know if Sony. I gave them permission. Every time I see that thing for permission for gameplay, I do it because ever since Borderlands 3, where they were doing the science, like I haven't played that game in so long. Maybe we should do some of that, but it was for genetic research, I want to say. And if you read it, it's like legit. Like they're using it's not even artificial intelligence. They're using human intelligence to model, to train AI is what it was. And I actually had a buddy in college that he had a biology degree first. So, and then he found he couldn't really do much with that. So he wanted to go back for computer science. And his main focus was to create a program that would map the genetics or map a genome. Sorry, I know I'm not saying that right at all. I never took chemistry, I did not in college. Anyways, so and I feel like I missed out. I really wanted to take. I also wanted to take cooking in high school. In fact, I should do that too. I should make a jam board of all the electives I took in high school, my grades, because I did have like a not a 4.0, but I had like a 3.5. And I want to say 4.0 like the first 3 years. So I worked hard in school because again, we didn't have anything to do up there. Like you either partied, you did good in school, you did sports, you did everything, you did religion, like, well, not just religion, you did Jesus. So it was all Christians, well, except for the one Jewish person that I knew that I was dating. And then I found out, her mom was Jewish, her dad wasn't. But her dad worked with local law enforcement as a civilian to keep meth in check. Like, and I know somebody that got busted for having a meth lab recently. And I know that and then my other friend's brother helped arrest him. So it's like, and he's doing good now, by the way, the guy that had the meth lab. Like, he's been rehabilitated. I haven't talked to him yet because honestly, I got too much on my plate right now. But he and I do have a history together. Like, we were friends in high school. So it's like, I worried about that. When I heard that he had been busted for a meth lab, first off, I was like, damn tweaker. And I was like, wait, that's my buddy. So, man, that's hard. Like being a BV lifer, like the people that don't get out of that valley, like, ugh. And you want to talk Valley Girl, like the California, like, no, it's like, and that's why I kind of laugh at like California problems and stuff. Like, yeah, they exist, they're out there, but like when you got nothing to do and you're just sitting there, I guess it's the same for poor people in urban areas. Like you still got nothing to do. Like there's a movie theater, but you can't afford tickets. Like, and then you get to watch the people that go in. Oh, all right. So yeah, let's talk about the job history. So once or working at a ski resort kind of reminds me of that. Like you got to watch everybody else go out and have fun. So working at any resort style, I'm sure Disney employees feel the same way. Like, people are out there having fun, having a magical time, and you're just there cleaning up their vomit or whatever. Like, no, I'm just kidding. But like, that's kind of the reality is like, you got to work the low end of the totem pole until you can afford such things. And that's the biggest thing too, is patience. So keep that in mind. Like, I didn't get to where I am today overnight, and I'm still not where I need to be, but that's fine. I am where I need to be for now, and that's good. So, and I'm learning the skills to make me marketable to even if things don't work out, which I mean, I'm sure they will. Like, I'm not jinxing myself here, I hope not, but well, no, because I don't drink anymore. I'm not hungover, and that was actually a problem with a couple of my jobs. Was I was hungover a lot, and it's like you noticeably can tell when someone's hungover, they just don't work the same. I remember I had a crane operator friend over at the other place, And he would actually ask our other crane operator friend to run the crane on days he was too shaky because he was hungover. Like, and that is, it's a real concern. That's a safety concern. So of course our other buddy would say, yeah, sure. But after a while, it started to become taxing because he was just doing it so much, and it was just a common thing. And then he's like, do you even want to be a crane operator anymore? Like he had to have the hard question of like, I realize, and of course he said, yeah, because you get more money. But, and mind you, I only got more money. I was still a crane operator, but I didn't get money for that. I got money for being a preventative first line maintenance. That was my promotion. And you could be a planner where you help like order materials and stuff, or you could be, sorry, I don't know how much I should. Well, yeah, no, that's important. So like realistically, if you wanted to go work for that company, I don't know if I should say names. Anyways, if you want to go build wind turbine blades over in Windsor, um, it's a really good place. I mean, it is dangerous. I was on the first aid, first response team. So again, like, okay, actually, sorry, let's go back to that really quickly. Let's run through. So I worked at the apartment complex, the college apartments. I was trusted with that. Eventually got evicted because my roommate at the time had parties when I was away on business, and he got noise complaints. And I came back, and my landlord was like, "Sorry, this is the last straw." And I was like, "This is my first problem when I got into trouble, a little bit of trouble." I said, "This is my first thing. Like, what are you talking about?" He's like, "No, no, you had noise complaints." And then I found out it was my roommate. It wasn't me. I knew it wasn't me. I was like, because I don't remember any cops ever coming. But they knew my apartment. And so that's the scary thing and the kind of awkward thing. Anyways, we'll talk about that another day. But so the cops are already very aware of my apartment. And just any of those apartments. We have a ton of cops up here. They're probably watching these videos. Like, maybe not these, but like other people streaming and stuff. Like they're putting together, okay, at this time this person was inebriated. Oh, and they went and drove to get Taco Bell. Well, now we have evidence that they drink and drive. So now let's see if we can catch them. See, and it's just little simple things like that. Like you need to be aware of your own blind spots. Like how much information are you really revealing of yourself at any given time? And so. Yeah, and that's just the one thing. Like we've got traffic cameras on the stoplights. Up until horrible bosses, I feel like I was one of the few. I mean, I know I wasn't the only one, but one of the few that really understood the extent of what that means. Like a video camera, like, and I also look at the traffic cams up on mountain passes to see if there's snow and to see if it's safe to drive there. And same concept. You can see what the cameras see, and that's a pretty good picture. Like that's better than security cameras. Like on every street corner, every single one. So, anyways, and it's like, and I remember back in high school, my buddy, he said that his dad was developing something to where um, it's a microchip, and if you passed over a certain street intersection, it would flag something. And I was like, oh, that sounds so scary. And then now, if you play Pokemon Go, you can see where you are in your house, and that's how accurate our tracking technology is for our cell phones. My cell phone's like always here. We didn't have that when I was a kid. Like that's some direct accountability and really proof to where you really shouldn't be breaking the law. You need to figure out a healthy way to live in accordance with the laws. And it's easier said than done here in Colorado because we have legal cannabis. We don't have legal smoke shops, and that's the other thing that like I'm trying to advocate for. I'm trying to talk my other buddy into doing it because he had a bar. He hated it. I mean, he loved it. Don't get me wrong. He loved it, but he hated it because he was dealing with drunk people all the time. And then hard drugs start coming into play, and it's like, people are in the bathroom like doing heroin and meth, and like, and those are the two taboos for substances that my friends and I always like respected. We would never touch those. Those were like that's like point of no return. That and using intravenous needle drugs. That is like, and for all of those youngsters out there, that's what you need to be careful of. Like we had DARE, we had the cops come in and talk to us in fifth grade about drugs. I'll tell you right now, never do meth, never do heroin. And now, keep in mind, Adderall is a synthetic form of meth. It's a different type, but it's a similar chemical compound. So be careful. Like people are being prescribed Adderall for ADHD, myself included. So that's in the past. Like I am no longer on any medications except for migraine medication, which is very rare. I've hardly had any migraines lately. So, but knock on wood, that I want to say is related to my concussions I've had back in the day. I've had some pretty bad head knocks. So yeah, so I get migraines. But a lot of people in my family get migraines. It's really nothing new. So Anyways, back to the um, yeah, substances. Just don't do meth, don't do heroin, and respect that people, even if they do, like it's just temporary. I mean, mostly, and that's why it's so exciting with legal mushrooms because you can treat addiction with them. Like, I'm really excited to see because these next 2 years are going to be where they do the clinical trials of how effective. Yeah, that thing is kind of creepy, just like a person. It's almost like an alien. Like, I don't know. Anyways, um, but it is going to be so interesting to see, and also people experiencing homelessness. That's like the biggest reason I'm excited about is because we had that case study where the mayor or whoever found out, oh yeah, you can get help, you can get a shelter, you can get food, you can get clothing, you can even get monthly payments, you can get an apartment style housing for, a temporary amount of time until you get back on your feet. Like we have these resources and we spend a lot of our tax dollars, a lot of that weed money, providing these things. So I don't actually know for sure. Like I'd have to see where the taxes are flowing, but I know that whenever we vote and we get the blue book that summarizes everything that we need to know to vote on, yeah, and I wish we had that for the presidential level too. Sorry, that's oh, sorry. I thought it was. How are we doing on time? Oh yeah, we're almost done with time. So to finish up my careers, I then worked at Blackjack Pizza. Oh, sorry, not Black. Jeez, I already said the name. I said Subway. So I worked at Subway for 5 years, Blackjack for three. I delivered pizzas until I didn't have a car, and then I worked inside the restaurant. They made accommodations. They let me work inside, and so and then I worked at Subway. Was assistant manager at Subway. Um, and offered my own management position, my own store to manage, and then got my first internship at a software company. After 3 months, I was offered full-time employment. I passed the trials, the hoops. Worked there for a year. Did really good at the beginning, but then faltered. They served alcohol, or they allowed alcohol there. I got my tips training there, so like the bartender training for what to do if you work at an event that serves alcohol. So that gave me a little glimpse inside, that kind of environment that most people aren't aware of, like bartenders and stuff, unless you've worked there. So like AOC, talking about politicians that have walked the walk and talked the talk. Like she knows exactly what's up with alcohol and alcoholism, and she's an advocate for legalizing all sorts of drugs, not meth and heroin, but I saw it was like MDMA, mushrooms, weed, like the common sense ones, like the ones that don't really, they're only dangerous if you get caught with them, and that was like a profound thing. I think that's Bill Murray that said that. I've seen that quote. It's like the most dangerous thing about weed is getting caught with it, and that's true. Like even driving, someone commented on one of my other videos, and I apologize to that person. Like I didn't mean to, burst your bubble because I did risky things back in my day. I'm not condoning it, but I'm just saying be careful. And I know cops would rather pull you over for being stoned and driving than drunk and driving. I mean, if they're still pulling you over, then unless you're doing it in a highly regulated area like college campuses, um, then if you're visibly swerving or it's to the point where you're actually a danger, then yeah, they do need to talk to you. So, I mean, just like there's been people that can drive blackout drunk and they drive so well that, they make it home and they have no idea why. But that's because they're extra careful when they're drunk and at the time they know they're messed up. And so they're like, being extra safe or slow or maybe there just wasn't a cop, like any whatever the reason there it's happened, like people have driven blackout drunk and made it. So anyways, career though, so then I graduated software company, then aerospace company. Oh yeah, I got laid off at the software company, worked for a telemarketing, or no, a call center, and then they found out I had a tech degree. That got me a shoe or a foot in the door for an aerospace company. I promoted from a contractor. I did contractor for 8 months, became the third highest ticket closer in the entire company, got direct hired, realized I was getting paid less than I would have at Subway. So that was why I didn't want to work there. So then I started looking for another job. They found out I was hungover a lot. It wasn't a great place in my life. And then I went and built wind turbines for a couple of years. Had a wonderful time, loved it. It was so much fun. It got burned out. I mean, it was a very physically demanding job. I was also crane operator, first aid, first response team, um, first line maintenance. Okay, there's my alarm. All right, let's see where we're at. Yep, last 30 minutes, seconds. So anyways, that's in a nutshell. And now I work for higher education as a system admin in IT. So that's what you can expect from trying to be in a tech career. That's like probably one of the more risky and like harder pathways to tech. So, anyways, that's my time. See y'all in the next one.